Over the years, I've been asking one question. Is making $100 an hour at low stakes poker humanly possible? Well, I'm here to answer that question here at my card room in Texas, The Fort. We absolutely crushed it in the first two videos with a total profit of $2,273 in just 12 total hours, putting us well on pace for our goal at $189 an hour. As usual, I sit down at the 1-3 table, buy in for $1,500, and get ready to battle. After some help from a bomb pot, my stack is sitting at $1,650, and I look down at 9-7 of spades from the cutoff. The $10 button straddles out there, a bunch of limps over to me, so I'm gonna make it $55 with 9-7 suited, and we get not one, not two, not three, but four callers going 5 ways to a very bloated pot here with a suited one gapper. When the action checks to me on an ace-queen-4 with 2 hearts flop, I decide to take a stab for $100. I'm gonna have aces, queens, ace-queen suited, and offsuit, so I think I like a bet here, and I decide to go for $100. The small blind calls, and then the hijack Jackie. We're going 3 ways to a turn, which comes the 10 of clubs. No one stabs at it, and it checks to me for a second time. At this point, I'm debating going for a large bet here, somewhere around $400 to $700, but I decide to check behind and take a free river card, and the logic is if there's no heart or no king or jack, I'm gonna take a stab, but any other scare card or if there's action in front of me, I'll probably just fold my cards. Well, we get the worst case scenario when the 9 of hearts peels off on the river, a small blind checks, the hijack Jackie now bets out for $450, and even though I make a pair, 9-7 of spades is just not good enough to put $450 more in the middle. We both fold our cards and he turns over 5-3 of diamonds. What a play there from Jackie in the hijack. He's gonna get it through with 5 high. He had the gut shot on the flop and turn, and what a disaster that first hand was. We looked down at pocket kings in the second hand now. The $10 straddle is back out there, and I make it $40 to go. Just the straddler gives us action, which means we're heads up out of position to a queen 4-4 flop, and I bet out for $45. Unfortunately, my opponent doesn't have anything on this board and mucks his cards, but still, if we're taking down $40 every time we enter the pot, that's gonna be a recipe for success. We catch this bomb pot right at the ending where I bet $235 with queen 10, 8-7. My opponent folds, which means we're taking down the entire pot.
Here's a lesson, Zach. It's never just 3.
I know. I was waiting for you to
It's
do
never,
that so I
never.
could re-rate.
Especially when you say, is it only 3?
And then I look down at king queen of hearts from the low jack and raise it up to $20. 3 players put in the call, and the flop comes queen 10-5 with 2 clubs. Zach checks, I check, and now the cutoff bet's out for $40. I think I have 2 options here. The first one is to go for the check raise. The logic is I want to protect my hand against cards like jack 9, club draws, maybe a hand like 5-6, 10-9 that could easily make 2 pair or pick up outs on the turn. I could also just call and allow my opponent to continue betting or go for the check raise on a later street like the turn or the river. That's what I decide to do, and the turn comes an absolute brick. It's the deuce of spades, and I check it over to my opponent hoping he stabs once more. Unfortunately, he checks behind, bringing in the 5 of diamonds on the river, and now we have a decision point once again. Betting large here makes a lot of sense. We're trying to get called by a worse queen or a 10. However, checking it over to my opponent would also make a lot of sense because if he had missed clubs or a missed straight draw, he'd be very incentivized to put money in the middle, trying to get me to fold a better hand. That's what I do, but unfortunately he checks behind once again. It looks like we're winning the minimum here. $164 is my reward, but I feel like check raising the flop was definitely the play, and then leading out on the river also could have gotten me paid as well. We have $1,750 in our stack. We play another $5 double board PLO bomb pot. My buddy Zach bets out for $40 on the turn, and I put in the call. We pick up another customer, and when we see both river cards, I bet out for $115.
Oh, you like those rivers, Zach?
Absolutely beautiful.
You like them?
Both players call. We're gonna end up chopping with Zach on our right, so a little bit of profit there. Nice to chop up the pot with our buddy.
All right, I'm here with a man who needs no introduction, Fedor Holz. You know, we're best friends basically at this point, so I feel very comfortable asking Fedor, this very important question. I'm playing 1-3 for 100 hours in Texas. Do you think over the course of 100 hours, so kind of a small sample size, I can make $100 an hour?
If it is 1-3, but it actually plays more like 5-10,
Yeah.
you probably have a good shot. I'd say you maybe, 20-30%. So I don't know, probably I have to reduce the percentage. Probably it's more like, you're like 10-15%, and then
It's getting worse by the minute here.
yeah, if I think about it, it's probably not that likely. It's hard. I mean, like I have friends who play cash game for a living, and I think there's very few that make more than like 150 to 100 an hour. So you're welcome.
Cheers.
Cheers.
In this next hand, we open it up to $40 with ace-7 of diamonds from the low jack. Noel puts in the call from the big blind. Now, this is the first time Noel has made an appearance on the vlog. It won't be the last, that's for sure. And let's just say this guy likes to put money in the middle. Heads up in position on Noel, and the flop comes pretty decent for us. Queen 9-3 with 2 diamonds. I look over at his stack, and he doesn't have that much more behind.
Let me just put you out of your misery here.
So I decided to jam it all in for $250, which has him covered. He only has 118, and that immediately hits the middle. He snap calls, and we are off to a run out versus Jack 9 of hearts. The turn comes the 10 of clubs, followed by the 7 of hearts on the river. We don't spike an ace or a diamond, so of course we are doubling up. The biggest action player at the table, which is good for the table and good for poker, but it's terrible for my challenge.
Usually girlfriends behind are bad luck, so I'm happy that worked out for you.
All right, I open it up to $15 with Jack 10 of spades from under the gun. We pick up 2 callers, one of which is Joey across the table. When the action comes Queen 10-9 with 2 clubs, I start with a check. I'm out of position against 2 opponents, and I just have a straight draw with second pair, so I think my hand plays way better as a check call than it does as a bet, and then I face a raise, and I just don't know where I'm at. However, the action checks through on the flop, giving me the straight on the turn, but it brings in the front door club flush draw with the 8 of clubs. Joey bets out for $15 on this very scary turn card, and the river card now comes a brick. It's the deuce of spades. He continues to fire here, and of course I have to snap call his $30 bet. I'm just not beating any flushes, but I do have a straight. I put in the call, and he says we're good. We flip over the Jack 10 of spades, and he said that he needed 1 more club, which makes a lot of sense. Maybe raising the turn for value could have been a play, although I think that would have been a little bit too thin of value. I'm taking down $139 for making a straight, which is a very good hand. Real quickly, you guys, over 54% of you who watched the second episode of this bankroll challenge were not subscribed to the channel. I'm making a big effort to post 2 times a week from this episode series, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. All right, there's an open to $15 and 1 call over to me. I usually go 4 times the open plus another $15. That'd be around $75. I decided to go a little bit bigger here because the game is playing much larger than advertised, and I go $80 with King Queen offsuit. We lose the initial raiser and then get the caller in between to put in the additional money, and we're going to go heads up out of position to a flop with our King Queen offsuit. At this point, I'm putting my opponent on a suited connector, but more likely a pocket pair. When you think about what he did, he called 15 and then he called 80. He probably doesn't have 10s, jacks, kings, queens, and aces, something that didn't want to re-raise that $15 open, but still was good enough to call for $80. The flop comes ace 5-6, and I look over at my opponent's stack. He only has around $150 left behind, so I decide to jam it all in on this ace high flop. It definitely favors my range, so we're taking down $407. Chipping away at my opponents is definitely the strategy. Thank you, dealer Troy, for pushing the pot over my way. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us into the last hand of the night. I look down at King Jack offsuit from the low jack and open it up to $15. We don't get 2, 3, but 4 callers for that $15 raise. We're going off to a flop 5 ways, which comes King, Jack, 6, bang, we flop top 2 pair. The action checks to me, and given the fact I'm out of position against a few opponents, I decided to start with a check, and the logic is I'm going for a check raise. I think any king would put in a bet. Queen 10 might bet here. here. We got the spades out there that could find a bet, but it seems like my logic is flawed because when I check, both other opponents check as well. We're off to the turn now, which comes a scary 10 of clubs, but when the action's on me, I'm not gonna make the same mistake twice, and I bet out for $55. Only Zach on my right puts in the call. We're heads up in position to a river, which comes a brick. It's the 6 of diamonds. A pretty great card, all things considered, and when he checks it over to me, I fire out for 100 and Cinco de Mayo now, putting him in a tough spot. He thinks about it for a while. Maybe he has a jack, maybe he has a pocket pair, but he ends up folding, showing Jack 9. I think he would have called a bet on the flop, but maybe not all 3 streets, so we probably made the maximum there. We were not going to get a ton of value from a hand like Jack 9. What a way to end it here. We started off early in the day, and just after 8 p.m. now, we are racking up and heading over to the cage. After buying in for $1,500 just 5 hours earlier, our stack ballooned up to $2,047, so a nice little profit of $547 on the session. We now have profited $2,820 in just over 17 hours, which sits us way above our goal at $165 an hour. The bankroll challenge is going swimmingly, I must say. We're 1/5 of the way through, and we are over our goal. There's 2 other videos on your screen right now. Click one of those to keep on watching. Please hit that subscribe button. We got 2 videos a week from this challenge coming until the series is over. Good luck on the felt, you guys, and as always, I'll catch you in the next video very soon. Peace.